Is Monster Hunter Wilds going to kill Rise? Well, it's complicated. Hello there, all you fabulous phantoms. I am GhostUrsa, your host, and this is something I've been thinking about for a while. Capcom has started its ad campaign for Wilds by promoting World to get people ready for the game, which is an exciting time. But what about Rise, the last game that just came out? I mean, it is the latest game, so you would think they'd be pushing that one. Is this a ploy by Capcom because it's the same team that did World is the one that's making Wilds? Or is it because the public favorability of Rise wasn't as big as World? Will Monster Hunter Rise die this year when Wilds comes out? No, it won't, but the answer does have a lot more nuance. Monster Hunter as a franchise has been around for 20 years now. The first game came out in 2005. And a lot of those old games are still being played today, especially ones where the online component never really was around in the first place. And even games like the ones on the 3DS that had an online component, like Monster Hunter 4 and Monster Hunter Generations, well, they're still thriving. People found a way to create secondary online components to be able to play with other people. This is something that's been available even when the servers turned off, as if it had never ended. There'll be no continued support for it, but the games are still there. Now, that's not to say that player counts won't drop significantly for Rise, just like it will be the same for World. The join request feature that they put into Rise to replace the SOS feature from World will have a very low player count for being able to have randos just be able to help you out. So that is something that's going to be hard, especially since the join request feature they have in Rise isn't as robust as the one in the SOS feature in World. Rise's ability does prevent you from being able to randomly select from any mission type. You have to specifically choose between normal missions, event missions, investigations, and so on and so forth. So it really will make it harder for randos just to join anybody who wants help. So that's really going to limit things down to only people with dedicated groups. Unless you're going through the main level channels, those are the ones where anybody can join in to help. Friendly chat also makes or breaks this feature, as a lot of times the player base itself will help continue to have a game thrive when the official support has ended. If the players themselves get very elitist, it'll make it hard for anybody coming into the game after the fact to come in and enjoy older Monster Hunter titles. But why World? Well, if I had to make an educated guess, Capcom is probably promoting Monster Hunter World instead of Rise for new players, because when it comes to taking a sneak peek at things before Wilds, it is the same development team, so the thematic style of the Monster Hunter title for Wilds will match similar to what was experienced with World. The two teams themselves have always had a very different approach to designing games. Their primary team, which is the one that always handles the primary titles for a generation, 1, 2, 3, 4, World, which is 5, and now this new one, Wilds, which would be Generation 6, their focus has always been on living, breathing environments. So their push is to make the monsters feel as big and lifelike as possible, allow them to be able to interact with their environments as tightly as they can. So for them, it's all about the world and its inhabitants. This is part of the reason why every iteration has been very slow to pick up on improvements for the players, is because the focus has always been improving the environment so the players want to stay there. And sometimes, especially with the older titles, evolution for player controls was a lot slower. Once the Freedom games came out for the PSP, and then Generations and Rise now, they've had a second team though. This second team has always been more unfocused with player accessibility and comfort. And so for them, it's always been about improving the way the hunters feel, so the players feel like they're in control. Not exactly overpowered, but for them it is more about accessibility. Every time the B team comes in, they experiment with new abilities and features. Some are great, and like, for example, a lot of the side grades that have been available for the moves that incorporate into the main titles, like with World and so on and so forth, were abilities that were added in as experiment during Generations Ultimate. And same as with Rise now, you can actually change some of your combo moves to be able to allow you to customize your hunter to feel more with how you want to play as a player. And some other changes are a bit controversial. The Styles ability from Generations Ultimate had some favorites, but also definitely had some stinkers that people thought were just either worse for a specific weapon style or just broke a weapon and made it hard for anybody else to want to play a different weapon style. And the Spirit Birds that they invented for Rise to help promote exploration kind of fell on its face for quite a few players. But the main thing is when it comes to player power and the feeling of being in control, that experimentation comes from their B team. And since Rise was created by that second team, you can probably see why the focus for Wild isn't on Rise. So, is Monster Hunter Rise dead? As I said, no. And now you kind of have a better idea as to why it's not going anywhere. It's a beloved franchise, and though it will definitely have less people playing it, there are still people playing the old PSP titles either through the hardware or through even emulation, so it's going to stick around for a very, very long time. And what I'm more curious now is how will Wilds affect new players coming in and their expectation for Rise. So do you think will be how audiences will perceive Rise going forward? Put that down in the comments. I am very curious about that. If you're curious about my thoughts on Wilds, well, I have my Monster Hunter Wilds initial reactions and breakdown posted here for you to peruse. Until the next time we meet up, Phantoms, good day, good night, and I hope to see you all in the next time.